So my name is Jonathan Antonio Martin Machine desde Tijuana, California, Mexico. And with us today, a legend, live legend of the Didgeridoo. Let me, okay, yes, because like Mr. Stephen. Okay. What's up, my friend, Mr. Stephen Ken? How are you? How are you
I'm
been?
good,
What are you
man.
doing right now?
Oh, right now I'm sitting in my new place in Hawaii, where I am just at the moment, and enjoying life in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, far from anything.
Yeah, that's so awesome because you are far away from the rest of the continents. Like New Year Eve, you are the last one to celebrate New Year's.
But yeah, they cut that little bit out so that Hawaii could be the last celebration rather than the
Yeah,
first.
it's weird for me because I see everyone celebrating, and I have to. Oh, Hawaii! I know Hawaii also is 3 hours away from me. That's
Right,
like what?
right.
I'm very used to be like the last one, but right now you are the last one in terms of time, of timing.
It's true.
And this is the Tjridoo podcast, and let's start with this is the classic question for everybody, and I think that you're gonna have a very awesome story than the rest of the people. I don't know, maybe can be.
A ver.
How did you heard about didgeridoo or heard the didgeridoo the first time? How impact this in your life, and then how do you start to play?
Okay. Well, I think I knew about the didgeridoo long before I would say I heard about it. But I have to say that I've been working with the didgeridoo now for many, many, many years, more than 4 decades.
Allah.
So when I first heard about the didgeridoo, it was when I was about to go from England, which is where I'm from. Um, I was going from England to Australia to join Australia's National Circus Company as the music director. And that group, Circus Oz, was is a group that has a very strong connection to supporting indigenous rights and especially land rights, and was founded in the late 1970s, Circus Oz, um, and one of the first and strongest voices on the Australian national scene supporting indigenous rights. So I was a music director going to join that company, and having myself grown up in East Africa as a child, connecting with my family with indigenous people in East Africa, I knew if I was coming to Australia, I wanted to know what the music of the indigenous people was like. And so I went to the library in London, and I worked on listening to some anthropological recordings of indigenous Australian Aboriginal music, among which were some recordings of didgeridoo. But it was always, the didgeridoo in those recordings was always far in the distance, and the voices and the clapsticks were always much, much louder. So I thought
Okay.
I heard that sound, and I was like, oh, that's not interesting. I don't feel like that's for me. But when I got to Australia and went to the rehearsals with the group I was going to be composing music for, they had three didgeridoos in the rehearsal studio, and I was brought up playing brass instruments. So I played the French horn. That was my instrument, as well as guitar. But French horn was my
Okay.
classical training on the French horn. So I could blow horn instruments. And I tried the didgeridoo, and yeah, sure enough, I could make sound on it. And then I thought, well, I can make sound on the didgeridoo, and there's a guy in the group who can do the circular breathing. Why don't I write music, but for brass instruments, making the sound of a didgeridoo? So I got the guy who could do the circular breathing a little bit. He wasn't great, but I got him to play the tuba or the
Mm.
sousaphone
Susan.
using didgeridoo techniques. And I wrote music for some parts of the show
Whoa.
with the sound of a didgeridoo transposed into Western brass instruments. So that got the connection with the didgeridoo.
Damn.
How did I start playing the didgeridoo?
Huh.
I didn't think it was that, again, I didn't think it was that interesting. But then I went to a rock concert in Melbourne, and there was an Aboriginal guy. His name is Joe Gaia. And Joe Gaia was opening the show playing solo didgeridoo through the PA in this big, sizable rock concert. The band was Ian Dury and the Blockheads. And so Joe Gaia opened the show. And I had never heard anything like it. I was completely blown away. I was like, my God, how incredible that sound is. That's more than I was expecting from this instrument. And then I got interested in playing, and I worked hard at learning how to play. But in those days, this is before there was Charlie McMahon of
Mm.
Gondwana land at the time in Australia, and he was about the only person I think who was making anything of really public appearances with the didgeridoo at the time. And I never saw Charlie. He was based up in Sydney or based out in the outback. So I didn't get to meet him until a couple of years later. But during that time, I met another influential friend of mine, Donato Rosella, an
Mm.
Australian Italian who joined the circus, and he was a very good didgeridoo player already. And so he became my best buddy and my influence in learning to play the didgeridoo. But getting the breathing took me a long time because there was nobody really who could show me outside of the tradition. And I got it, but it was like these days I'm teaching didgeridoo, and I teach a fair amount online these days, especially. And getting the breathing for beginners is much easier than it was in those days, or at least there's a lot of information about it.
Yes,
So that's
because right now you can go to YouTube and there is a lot of material that how to do circular breathing like this, like that, different
right.
ways to do it. But cannot imagine back in those days there was
Well,
no internet.
there was no internet. It was way before the internet, and way before there was, you know, I didn't feel confident that it was okay for me to play the didgeridoo. There were no white people, no balanda
Mm-hmm.
um, out there playing didgeridoo apart from Charlie, as I said. Um, I I felt as a European to
Mm-hmm.
actually play the didgeridoo in any way publicly, I had to go and ask permission of indigenous tribal elders and see if it was okay for me to play the didgeridoo. So that's what I did. I went into the Northern Territory again with Donato, and by then I was playing the didgeridoo itself, and I went and I spoke to elders in two different communities and asked if a white fella could play the didgeridoo, and I was given the message that yes, I could, as long as I wasn't going to misrepresent it or take it and play indigenous music or attempt to imitate indigenous music, which was never my intention.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was like um, really important to go there and ask permission to play.
That's very interesting because I don't have nothing with people that want to play traditional, but I saw one video that it says that Jidaki it's a gift to Balanda, and so Balanda can be Balanda, not Balanda try to be like John. So it's a gift, so we can be ourselves express ourselves with the didgeridoo. But some people is like, no, 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 trying to play like that, and they are like very focused on playing like that. I think they can do whatever they want in their country, but it's like you said, don't try to imitate in things like that. No.
Yeah, but I mean, I think we've come a long way from that time, and there
Yeah,
are,
yeah, yeah.
I know, I have numbers of friends in Japan, for example,
Mm-hmm.
and very good friend in Texas, Omid
Omid.
Laranji, Omid, who has spent a lot of time with Yolno especially, and learnt their language and learned to
Mm-hmm.
play specific songs. And so for these people who take it very seriously and go into the
Okay,
tradition
okay,
and learn the
okay.
tradition with great respect, and are even adopted into traditional, especially Yolno. I can't really speak to other tribal areas in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
They go and they learn on a profound level the traditional styles, and I have great respect for that. It's just not my way. Absolutely not my way. I've always
Okay,
seen it
okay,
as
okay.
being an instrument to bring into the contemporary world, while and while I know that Indigenous Australians are also contemporary people now,
Mm-hmm.
of course, I respect the ancient traditions it comes from, but I've never seen myself as anybody who wants to take that direction musically or culturally with the didgeridoo. I've always seen it as an incredible instrument to bring into the contemporary world of connecting ourselves with all different cultures and musical cultures to hopefully move this planet towards greater understanding of many people, and especially through music. I want to make contemporary music that has a voice that is different with the didgeridoo from anything else. And that's always been my trajectory with the didgeridoo. It's to make modern music
Mm-hmm.
using an ancient instrument with respect to where it's from. But I don't think what I do is Australian. It's absolutely not Australian music I play.
Yeah, yes, yes. In the contemporary music, I'm very curious about I have one didgeridoo is the QFC. It's C2. It's 66 hertz. And how do you write? How will you write music for that didgeridoo? I mean, you go. I don't know how to say this in English. Fortunately, you speak Spanish, so you will understand.
A ver,
Por ejemplo, ese didgeridoo está en do, en segunda octava, que son
sí.
66 Hz. ¿En dónde quedaría? ¿A qué rango? Porque en la clave de sol no creo. ¿Se va para clave de fa o todavía más para abajo si es que se puede? Y, o sea, es que es que es muy loco porque al tocar el drone está haciendo, pero se toca la primer trompeta y se va hasta do, pero una octava más arriba.
¿Qué es la trompeta del sonido? Es ¿qué
El
nota?
horn note, the horn, you know.
Sí, sí, pero ¿qué es? El bajo es do y el
El do,
trompeta es como.
también do.
Oh, el primero, do.
Sí.
Bueno, interesante. Es que
¿Cómo
yo
se
tengo,
escribiría para eso?
bueno,
O sea,
am, no
muy, muy
sé, es que si tiene que escribirlo como am, en la star de los cinco
la partitura.
líneas, no sé cómo es el tradicional
Mhm,
de oeste a escribir música,
mhm.
supongo que es do, pero 2 octavos más alto, ¿no?
Sí, sí.
Es-
This has been my curiosity because no one understands didgeridoo, and lots of people said, "Ah, okay, just do this intro. I just do this. I just do that, and we're gonna stop playing, and then you do a solo." But they
Right.
don't do something with the rest of the musicians. No?
With the didgeridoo.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, a frustration that I have had in I mean, my career with the didgeridoo has been going, as I say, a very long time. And
Mhm,
I have tried to work with all kinds of genres of music, from rock through dance music to world music, and I've done collaborations with people in Japan and in from West Africa, from South Africa, from Korea, from all over the USA, uh, and I worked with a string quartet in a classical tradition, but playing the music of Peter Sculthorpe, who is one of Australia's greatest composers. He passed away almost 10 years ago now, but I was working with him together with a string quartet and Aboriginal didgeridoo player William Barton
mhm.
worked also a lot with Peter Sculthorpe, and William Barton specifically works with the didgeridoo in classical context, new classical music context. Working with Peter Sculthorpe, he wrote the parts for the string quartet. So all four, the cello, viola, and two violin parts were all written. And then he gave instruction for the didgeridoo to enter at certain points and play with more intensity and different dynamics he wrote into the western score of the music for four different string quartet works. And working together with Peter Sculthorpe, I recorded with a string quartet, Del Sol quartet, all of the music that Peter Sculthorpe wrote for quartets, for string quartet and didgeridoo. And so he was asking the didgeridoo player to improvise within the instructions he would give in writing for each movement of each string quartet. And so I evolved a way of interpreting his instructions, but playing in an improvising way with the didgeridoo along with the strings. And I'm very happy with the way that that recording came out. It came out in 2014, I think, with Del Sol Quartet. It's called Sculthorpe String Quartets with Didgeridoo.
Yeah.
That
How many projects of music that you can remember have you been working in your whole career with the didgeridoo? You said that a lot of styles of music, but the
well,
projects more. Uh-huh.
I start my first recording, my whole album of didgeridoo music with percussion and sound engineers being working on um, the sound engineer and mixing engineer was also a member of the band, so his involvement was crucial. It came out in 1988. It was recorded in 1987. That was my first album. I think I've done 31 full albums with many different combinations, and and I think it's seven albums under my own name, which also not all solo. Several of them, I think three of my Stephen Kent albums, which are whole CDs each one, are basically solo works. But then the rest have got lots of collaborations as well. But I've been doing this for a very long time, and so my interest has always been in collaboration. So yeah, I've made a lot of works, but I mean, as to who I've collaborated with over all those years I've playing, it's probably been hundreds of different kinds of collaborations.
I was like 1987. I was 2 years old.
I was
I'm
I am a little older.
yes, a little bit older.
But
There
I,
is,
for me, the didgeridoo is fascinating. It continues to fascinate me, and after all of this time with it, um, I'm still finding new directions. I see the didgeridoo itself as being one didgeridoo is like a whole orchestra for
yeah.
me. And I'm interested in exploring the different possibilities of that orchestra, from rhythm to space and harmonics, trumpet tones, and the whole kind of movie soundtrack of possibility of the didgeridoo. And it's been very interesting to see how the instrument has evolved, and especially in Europe over the last, I don't know now, 15 years. I don't know how long people like Andrei Schmekel and Dubravko Lapine and that different, almost beatbox style. Andre would hate me for calling it beatbox style, because I think he's a
See,
very, very different kind of a player, but it's the different techniques that I think he pioneered with the didgeridoo in contemporary music has changed the picture so much. I don't really personally go down that sonic road with the didgeridoo, but I'm amazed at the amount of the range that the didgeridoo has holds for people around the world, and it's an extraordinary instrument that still we're discovering new directions and new qualities of sound with it.
yes, it's mind blowing.
Hmm.
Right now, it's like there is a lot of technology, and we are getting advantage of that technology. That right now is possible. Like I have the measurements to make a Phrygian fifth dominant didgeridoo. The
Out of
drone,
what?
whatever material you want to do it, I'm
Like
gonna
to
do it.
print it, like a 3D printed version or something?
I can do it in 3D print. Oh, like this one.
Or like, sorry, or what?
I have this one. It's just a prototype. It's more longer than this. It has another
I
piece
can't
over
actually
here.
see it because you're frozen. Your image is
Again,
frozen, so I don't see anything.
let
But
me see fast,
show it to the
very
people.
fast.
I don't know what he's showing.
Yes, I'm back.
Ah, I see you.
This this is a prototype.
Ah, wow.
I made this for 3D printed. That is not a Phrygian. That's a perfect fifth.
Ah,
Drone C in the first tooth. The first is a G.
uh-huh.
But
So
the weird thing about that didgeridoo is that if you play the tooth, the G, it will sound like a high G didgeridoo, but it's the first tooth.
really,
Now with technology, we can do. I mean, there is a dude from Germany. He made a algorithm in computer, so he can find the perfect shape for
right.
a prox didgeridoo scale, something like that, and it's very very awesome. And
I believe that, and at the same time, I also am not sure how interested I am in constructing the perfect sound. I remember having a conversation, it must have been 6 or 7 years ago, with Ansgar Stein about the same thing, because I have a didgeridoo which I call the leg, and it's one that I've had with me since the mid 80s. And a lot of my music at various times has been played on the leg. It's an F, and it has the first toot is an A, but a tenth above the fundamental, and then the next one is 2 octaves an F 2 octaves higher. So it goes do do do, other fundamental notes.
Uh-huh.
Anyway,
Uh-huh.
Ansgar was offered to. He wanted to borrow the leg and take photos of the interior and then fabricate out of, I forget what he was going to use to create a replica of it, so I would never ever lose it. And I refused to do it. I said no, it doesn't interest me to do that, because I believe in the soul of that very instrument, that it's a magical termite hollowed piece of
Mhm.
ironwood, I think, and it comes from a small community up in on the coast, not so far from Darwin. And
Okay.
my interest, and many people will perhaps think I'm too stuck in the mud on this, but my interest has always been in the confluence, the coming together of nature
Okay.
and most often indigenous didgeridoo or yidaki in this case, makers of the instrument, and the creation that the termites, the wood, the tree, and the human interaction in fabricating that instrument creates a magical essence that I don't know that you can imitate or recreate with technology. I assume you probably can, but for me, still there will be something missing. And what my interest is an instrument, or all of my instruments that I play, I'm interested in the connection between myself and that the amplification of myself through these particular pieces of wood. Generally, there are some instruments that are not made of eucalyptus, termite hollowed eucalyptus, that I've also got very powerful connections
Mhm.
to as well. But my true love is playing with the traditional sounding instruments, but playing completely contemporary music, and finding that connection, that love affair with this one instrument or another. And I have,
That's
a fair
uh,
collection, but I don't play more than about a dozen different didgeridoos.
that's the perfect didgeridoo. There is no perfect didgeridoo, one for everyone. It's the perfect one for each player. That's
Yes,
your perfect didgeridoo. That's your perfect didgeridoo. You know.
that's what I think. That's true. And I've
Yeah.
had people, I've met people over the years who tell me, "Oh, I play this piece of yours," or I love um, my piece Jungnawangara, and I play it, and I think, um, okay, and they want to play it to me, and they play me something, and I can hear that they have some sense that it's connecting with my energy with that sound. But honestly, I never hear myself. I never hear a replica of how I create the sound and how I create that music together. I think it's I think be yourself. Play your own sound on the didgeridoo.
It's like.
I'm very happy to
Uh-huh.
teach people my ways and my ways in, but I'm always interested in working with the individual I'm working with, or in the workshop that I'm working with. You, I'm interested in helping those people find themselves in this connection with the didgeridoo. And if I can give my own insights into how to play or how to reach this kind of playing, then I'm very happy to do so. But I want you, as a didgeridoo player, to have that magic connection with it yourself, and not be imitating or making yourself a photocopy of of me. It's not interesting.
Yes, yes. It's like in the digital world probably can be a little bit close to make I forgot the word, cover, like un cover de
Yeah,
una
yeah,
canción, por decirlo. It's most
yeah.
casi
It's
imposible hacer un cover de alguien por
well,
una de esas razones, la
it
conexión.
is. I think so, and I think that I did find myself just a few weeks ago. I found a somebody playing didgeridoo with a string quartet on YouTube, and they were playing one of the pieces that I was mentioning that I recorded 10, 10 years ago. I made the
Mhm.
recording, and they were playing this one piece that I know very well. And as I explained to you, I improvise my way through with the instructions of the composer, but I improvise my part. So my part is my own creation. And the guy who was playing, I don't remember the names of the participants, he I could tell he listened to my version of this um, string quartet with Peter Sculthorpe, and he tried to play what I played. And so he made some vocalizations which were it was shocking to me, because it was like, this guy is trying to be me. He's not doing his own thing. And it's a very strange feeling when you find that somebody else is trying, but they just are doing a cover version. En español, ¿cómo es cover
Cover,
versión?
un
Es
cover.
cover.
Sí,
Es igual, más o menos.
it's gonna be, va a haber una traducción de cover, because this word is in English, cover, but
Claro.
solamente la castellanizamos. Instead of cover or whatever. How's the pronunciation, cover, in
You
English?
say, well, in English you say cover, a cover
Cover.
version. Cover.
In
Yeah.
Spanish, we just say cover,
Cover.
Cover. We
Sí, claro,
pronounce
es igual, pero
cover, un cover.
bueno,
And
no,
it's very complicated to do the cover, so because it depends on the instrument. It
yes.
depends in the place where you play that instrument, and
Yes.
depends in the player. If it is more has more lung capacity, it has
Or
this, it has that.
or is a big guy or
Woo!
a small guy, or has big cheeks or small cheeks or big
Yes,
nose.
it's a lot of interesting things, because I tune one didgeridoo in the key of E here in Tijuana, and
Ajá,
I fly y volé a Ciudad de México,
claro.
y allá se convirtió en mi bemol.
Sí.
Entonces, y yo
Bueno,
mismo tocando el instrumento, nomás que Ciudad de México pues está más arriba, está del nivel del mar, y aquí en Tijuana estamos a nivel del mar. Ahí se hizo un poquito más grave el instrumento, y lo bueno que tenía la boquilla, se deslizaba poquito, y ya lo pude afinar a mí otra vez, pero allá lo tenía que modificar, y ya se lo quedó una persona de allá de Ciudad de México, pero a él le daba fa sostenido. No
bueno,
lo podía levantar.
es una reflexión. Pienso que el didgeridoo es un idioma que es una reflexión del lenguaje o los idiomas que hablas, como como dice, el tocador, jugador.
Uh-huh.
Um, yo soy inglés, no soy americano, no soy australiano, yo soy inglés, yo tengo un acento del sur de Inglaterra y cuando hablo, cuando toco el didgeridoo me toco como inglés.
Mhm.
Si, si era Yolno, la lenguaje de los Yolno de Arnhem norte de Australia,
Mhm.
hablan su lenguaje con la lengua aquí, ah, que es retroflexiva dentro de su boca cuando están
Mm.
hablando. Habla así con la lengua está
En
más
el,
bajo, más bajo de la boca. Hablan así. Es muy diferente cuando está tocando Yolno style, por el didgeridoo, el yidaki, que tiene es un otro idioma totalmente y es necesaria um, tocarlo con su manera de hablar. Y, y yo, bueno, yo pienso que es muy, los varios idiomas del mundo, que hay muchísimos, también influencia el sonido de cada uno, viene con el didgeridoo cuando sale su sonido. If you
see,
understand
this
what I'm
is
saying.
yes, every single word. Yes, understand. Because with another dudes, I was telling that I'm not practice traditional style, but I
Mhm.
try to do like Nahuatl and Purepecha languages, like the volcanoes names in Mexico City, Popocatépetl, Iztaccíhuatl.
Uh-huh.
Those two names on the didgeridoo. Popocatépetl, Iztaccíhuatl,
Yes,
Popocatépetl is
Popocatépetl. Popocatépetl.
yeah. And there is another one. There is another one. It's a place. It's Parangaracutirimícuaro.
¿Cómo? Otra vez, por favor.
Parangaracutirimícuaro.
Parangara ote mikolo.
Parangaracutirimícuaro.
Palangara oku
Garacutirimícuaro.
kutiri mikwalo. Bueno, a
Yes,
ver,
that's
hay que
on the
aprender.
didgeridoo. Yes, and it's helping me to
To enunciate.
pronunciate. Yes, pronunciate.
Sí, 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 sí.
And also the timing. The
Yes.
Parangarakutirimícuaro. It's like a 10
Yeah, yeah.
Parangarakutirimícuaro, 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 Parangarakutirimícuaro.
That's
That's
a good,
this
that's a good, in English you say tongue twister.
tongue twister. Yes,
Tongue twister.
trabalenguas. Yes, it's and it's a place here in state of Michoacán, over there in
Uh-huh.
south coast of Pacific. It's a place, a little village, something like that.
Uh-huh.
It
And
is very
that's very cool.
interesting. Yeah, this is interesting that all the languages it change the style of playing, like you said with the Yonlu, the hard tongue style,
Yeah, yeah.
because the tongue goes to the paladar.
Yes.
That is very difficult for me.
No, I hear you. It is. I'm, for me, of course, the tongue is a big part of playing the didgeridoo and a big part of my playing of the didgeridoo as well. But I see the instrument, the didgeridoo, is the whole body. I mean, I feel
Mm,
like I'm interested in bringing different layers of sound from deep, deep down inside my gut, to my diaphragm, and even more than my diaphragm, to bring different multi-layers of sound into the playing of the didgeridoo. So the tongue and what happens in the mouth is almost the last thing I think of. Of course, when I'm playing didgeridoo, I'm using my tongue all the time because you shape the sound of the didgeridoo is coming through the mouth inevitably. But I'm interested in also bringing the sound back into me and beyond my mouth, into my throat, into my chest, into my lungs, into
Mm-hmm.
my guts, and into my diaphragm for sure, and bringing it further and further in. So I bring like 4 or 5 new elements into the sound where I'm playing, not just it's not just something that's coming out of the front of my mouth at you all the time. It's really something that is shaping the whole body in playing and making the music of the didgeridoo.
So awesome. And I wanted to ask you something about the one band that you. I had I have listened to a CD when I was in Mexico City with my friend Omar de la Tejera. He borrowed me one CD to hear it, Baraka Moon.
Oh,
So awesome, so awesome.
yeah, Barakamoon.
You are still playing together.
No, not at the moment. There's a possibility we could. The Barakamoon is the really it's fronted by a Pakistani singer who comes from both a Sufi, ecstatic Sufi, and also Indian classical tradition. His name is Sukavat Ali Khan. His father, Ustad Salamat Ali Khan, was one
Mhm.
of the great singers of the last century in classical Indian music. But
Wow.
Pakistan, also being a Muslim country, the Sufi part of ecstatic Islam has a very strong presence in Pakistani music. And Barakamoon was a contemporary version, or is a contemporary version of that Sufi, mostly Sufi, but also some Indian classical raga-based material. And it's a dance band. I play didgeridoo, Anastasi Mavrides on guitar, and Peter Warren on drum set. But I also played bass guitar and some guitar, and Sukawat, the singer, plays harmonium too. And so, yeah, Baraka Moon, you
Mm.
can find us on. We had one album called Wind Horse, came out in 2017. You can find that out there, and there's some videos on YouTube, Baraka Moon.
Yeah, so awesome band. I was like hearing there. It was no video, just the CD, and I was like, damn. Oh.
With that, to me, that it was interesting. For me, I always enjoyed playing with that band, and the didgeridoo was like part of the engine room of the sound. It's really driving. It's dance music, so it's mostly really driving the sound with the didgeridoo in a lot of the pieces. But it was, one of several, well, a number of group projects that I put a lot of energy into at different times. Another one is the band Transmission, Tranc Mission. And we had an
Transmission.
album, the last Transmission album came out right as the COVID lockdown started in
Okay.
California in 2020. It's called Le Pondu.
Okay.
You can find transmissionsf.com. That's another one. I made music in the 1990s with Transmission. We had 4 albums in the 1990s, very much um, music that crossed genres and brought together different kinds of world influences based in San Francisco.
Mm.
And then we had a long gap, and then in 2020 put out the last album called Le Pondu.
Lepandu.
Mm.
And you do you have any new projects that you wanna go work on?
I'm,
Uh,
you know, it's been an interesting period of time where I've been sitting in the back seat, not
mm,
producing any new music for the public in the last since that lockdown started in
okay.
2020. But yes, I have new projects that I'm working on. I'm just not going to talk about them right
Yeah,
now.
yeah, no worries, no worries, no worries.
I it was good for me. It has been good to take a kind of sabbatical, if you like, from being constantly working and doing different projects with Didgeridoo. One of my last tours that I made um, before the lockdown was in Japan, where I love going and collaborating with Japanese musicians. But now we'll see what comes through. It will be, it's in the works.
There's no need to talk about the projects, but just to say that there will be more projects of Stephen Kent. That's just like, yeah,
For
awesome.
sure, it's an
A
ongoing
huevo.
story. It will always be an evolving story.
And it's very interesting that you have been playing with uh, musicians around the world. How
Right.
is that experience? Because Pakistanis and Indian dudes, they look the music in this way, but the Japanese look the music in that way, and Aboriginal people look the music in this way. And you, as a English, uh, you look the music like this. And playing with all that those kind of musicians is like mind blown. How's the experience working with a lot of nationalities and a lot of musicians?
Well, I think music is a universal language, evidently. It's like music is like water. It
Mm,
keeps us all alive, and it's a language which is common in every culture. It so happens, and my belief is very strong in this, that the didgeridoo can work. It doesn't always work, but it can work with almost any musical culture. I've played in crazy free form improvised jazz music with no rules with didgeridoo, and I've played with Ngoni players from West Africa,
mm,
where the pentatonic foundation of the music is so perfect for the didgeridoo. Tuvan singers from Siberia, throat singers from Siberia. I had collaboration
yeah,
with one group for Chirgilchin for over 10 years. I was playing with them. Um, Live, and we did some recordings, but sadly they didn't see a lot of those didn't come out into the world. I worked with Mongolian musicians, with American Indian musicians, with people, yes, from all over the world, and we always find common language. It's like one thing that I find, I say, what is the opposite? The opposite for me is music when I play the didgeridoo and somebody I'm playing with goes, "Oh, that's great. It's a drone. I can just jump all over that all and I make sound all over it and I will not listen to it, but I'm just going to do whatever the hell I like on top of that." And they call that a musical collaboration. For me, that is death to the didgeridoo player. It's like I want to have a conversation with you when I play music. I want to have the space to say what I have to say and for you to listen and for us to make something beautiful together that we understand is a creation of the combination of the musicians, not that the didgeridoo just is as a flat line or a bed for someone else or a carpet for somebody else to just jump around and do their own dance over. That's my interest. And so I try to meet people and play music with people where it's a true meeting of listening and having a conversation in music. And that's been the story of my experience, the good experiences I've had with musicians from dozens, if not scores of cultures around the world. That's the connection.
Yes, like didgeridoo. Well, here in Tijuana, it's like underrated, like
Uh-huh.
underrated, underestimated. Is like, oh, this wooden tube that make noises, blah 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 blah, and things like that. And when people put a little bit attention on the didgeridoo, the harmonics,
Yeah.
the rhythms, all this kind of playing gets very not so basic, like you said, like just the drone, all the notes between the drone and the notes of the tools in making lots of dynamics with the musicians.
Yeah, it's such a complex instrument. It appears very simple, and it's
Hmm.
easy to make a trivial comment about the didgeridoo, or say it's a comical instrument, or it's just going bleh, 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 boggity, bonk, bonk, whatever. It's very easy to simplify it, but if you truly listen to the sound of the didgeridoo and the range of possibilities in the sound, and what a good player can do with manifest with this essentially very simple piece of technology. It's a magical universal storytelling machine. It's a beautiful thing, and that's why I say I've been playing for more than 4 decades now, and it doesn't. I'm not tired of this instrument. I'm looking always to expand into new areas and new stories with it.
You have to come to Mexico over there in if you go to Cancun, if you go to or the yes Cancun in Quintana Roo,
Ajá. Bueno,
there is
me
one.
encantaría venir a México,
Claro,
eh, tocar conciertos y hablar musicalmente con la gente. Me encantaría hacerlo.
aquí en México. Bueno, no, I don't know if you knew about the only Didaki maker outside of Australia. And he has the like the blessing from a group of Aboriginal that came to Mexico City. The only Halloween logs out of Australia. In
And,
Luis Mendez, this dude made. He went to the jungle, Amazonas. No, this is not Amazonas. It's La Candona jungle,
uh-huh.
and find Halloween termite, Halloween
Oh, really?
logs. In some others of thunderbolts, like all Halloween by thunderbolts. And the Aboriginals saw this group Aboriginal dancers saw that log and whoa, this
Wow.
Ajidaki. So
And
mind blown.
where in Mexico?
In Quintana Roo, in Cancun.
In Cancun.
Yes,
Oh,
if you ever go to that place, you have to see those
absolutely.
instruments.
Me encantaría saber algo de esto. Eh,
Sí,
Hace poco estaba al punto de irme a Cancún, pero cambia la vida y no podía, pero la próxima vez, claro.
claro, ¿no? De lo que te pierdes, unos taquitos de cochinita pibil. Mm.
Ok, bueno,
if,
me
if
pones
you
en
eat,
contacto con ellos,
sí, claro, 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 claro.
por favor.
This one very interesting question that you have 40 years, 4 decades of playing. How is how is how chinga, cómo planteó la pregunta? ¿Cómo has visto la evolución del didgeridoo a través de los años? You mentioned that Dubravko in Ondrej Meikal,
Right.
but since 15 years, ago, there are more players and more players and more players. Sorry, and more players and more players and players and players and players. How do you see this that didgeridoo is evolving and evolving and evolving and evolving in more players? Como decimos en español, salen tocadores debajo de las piedras.
Bueno, supongo que es la verdad, ¿no? And a lot of people come to me and they say to me, "Oh, I love the way you play the traditional way," because I think they consider it to be traditional. That I play a lot with the circular breathing and the fundamental drone as the foundation of a lot of my music, as opposed to the broken up kind of whatever the beatbox style or whatever style it is. How do I see the evolution? I think it's extraordinary. As I was saying, I think that obviously that style, or those styles, because there are as many variations in style as there are players that play. I think we've established that. I'm interested in hearing each person's voice, their own true voice when they play. I'm not really interested in the didgeridoo as a painted by numbers construction of an intellectual or a superficial way to play tricks. I'm not interested in the didgeridoo as something you play tricks on, musical tricks. But I do think it's extraordinary, the language, the variations in language and sound and possibility that have evolved over all of those last 40 years. I said my first album, Didgeridoo album, came out in 1988, but I'd been playing for 6 years before that. I'd been evolving my style for, about 6 years before 88, in learning my craft before I came into the public world with it in recordings. But I don't know what to say. There are a lot of people copying other people, maybe trying to do cover versions of other people's sounds, but there are still many who are creating new things and new voices with the didgeridoo as they go.
Yes,
I welcome new variation. I mentioned William Barton before, who is a phenomena on the didgeridoo, but I'm not sure how well known he is in the hipster realm of contemporary didgeridoo playing,
sí.
because he plays almost exclusively with classical orchestral and classical musical um, scenarios. But he is a traditional Aboriginal man from Queensland, whose mother was an opera singer.
Wow.
And William Barton is a very powerful voice in the contemporary world, using the didgeridoo in a very different context to all of those who are playing in the more, whatever you call it, rock, dance music, popular forms of music. And the didgeridoo, I hope that the message that comes across from me is that my interest is how the didgeridoo can work with other instruments and with other kind of musical cultures outside of this in spite of the fact that the didgeridoo scene is very self-perpetuating. A lot of people are interested in nothing but the didgeridoo. I'm interested in how we meet other people. I'm interested in meeting extraterrestrials and finding common language with the didgeridoo and extraterrestrial beings.
Y ya dijeron que sí.
Claro. I played long ago in Italy, I played with trees and was recorded playing a concert together with a tree in Zamenhof, northern Italia. I'm interested in cross-species communications with this instrument. I think it's got that possibility. We can have conversations in all directions. Music, in terms of playing with other creatures. I hear the dogs have been speaking a lot to us during this conversation here.
Yeah,
But
they're
that's what
chasing.
interests me.
They're chasing a cat. Feo.
But yeah, I think the didgeridoo is magnificent. I think the evolution has been extraordinary over this 40 years. I'm very curious to see where it leads in the next 10, 15, 20 years. Let's see.
You now you have to experience tango, cumbia, Mexican
Cumbia and
music,
tango. Hmm.
cumbia, tango, son cubano, cumbia colombiana, cumbia tradicional
Lo sé,
colombiana, los
lo lo
ritmos
sé la música de
latinoamericanos.
Colombia. Es que hace mucho tiempo yo tenía un programa, estaba DJ de un programa de radio aquí,
Ajá.
bueno, en San Francisco, y la música fue, bueno, yo tenía dos programas para muchos años, y cada uno era una exploración de música del mundo, de diferentes tipos, y cumbia y música de Argentina y muchas partes, menos en América Central, porque había mucha gente que conoce muchísimo más que yo sobre las músicas de los tribus y otras partes de América Central y Latinoamericana también. Había mucha gente que lo saben mucho mejor, mucho más que yo, pero mis programas eran exploraciones de música del mundo. Por eso encontraba um, conmigo muchos diferentes tipos de música durante los años que estaba trabajando aquí
No,
hace.
no, you're like very. I don't know how, no sé cómo decirlo. I don't know how to say it, but
It's okay. No es
no
necesario.
words to express. No words to express. Not even in Spanish. I don't know what to say. Not even in Spanish, because it's like mind blowing. Like mind blowing. Lots of knowledge. Lots of not only of didgeridoo music. How many instruments? You say the French horn, guitar, bass. How many instruments do you play? Your
Well, it's
didgeridoo.
interesting. The didgeridoo was really the last instrument that I came to. I grew up playing French horn, but I had a band that I played guitar. Guitar was my main thing. I did the classical music that my parents loved, and I was influenced to play classical and learn classical music on one hand, and then on the other, as a teenager, I didn't want to play rock and roll so much, but I wanted to play electric guitar, and began playing guitar. And then that led me to playing percussion, a lot of percussion. And yes, some bass. But in recent times, I played in the band Transmission, for example, I play a lot of cello, but I play it more like a bass guitar, where I play, the strings. I have the cello around my neck like a bass guitar, and I'm playing in that form because I love the sound of the cello played like that.
Okay.
But I did a lot of vocals for a while. No, my life has been with music for a very long time. Music is I breathe and live music forever.
Yes, your heart is like in 140 BPM, tum 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 tum, always very on tune.
Well,
Your pure music. You are pure music, no?
Well, thank you. I it's like I say, my life has been very busy with music for a very long time. So it's been nice to have a period of time where I'm just going, okay, just breathe for a little while and explore other parts of the world and other creations of different cultures and different climates, and take a breath before my next project. So that's where I'm at now. I'm
El
about.
sabático.
Sí, exacto. Thank you so much for
Thank you very
talking
much,
with me.
Mr. Kent. Last words for all the didgeridoo community that you want to say in Spanish, in English, or just Spanish, just English, or
Bueno,
combinated,
yo
whatever.
pienso que lo he dicho, pero lo que pienso más y creo más en la manera que se puede seguir con el didgeridoo en su propio vida, y es que busca su veridad con el instrumento, busca lo que se puede decir que es absolutamente de su propio alma con el didgeridoo, y vas a crecer y embrasar un otro tipo de felicidad y satisfacción dentro de su corazón. Se puede encontrar su propio voz con el didgeridoo. Toma las influencias de todo que hay, no solamente el hombre o la mujer que se puede hacer un ritmo fantástico que te gusta muchísimo por el didgeridoo, pero buscar su propio manera de ir adelante con el didgeridoo. Y está, nada más.
Nice. Thank you very much. Muchísimas gracias, Jonathan Antonio Martínez Machine and Stephen Kent.
Adiós, nos veremos. Chao.